For years, a silent war spread across the stars. Planets burned, fleets vanished, and empires collapsed. Yet, through it all, Earth remained untouched. No alien ship came close. No alliance sent a message. It was as if humanity didn't exist. Captain Duran of the Vicary fleet had seen many horrors. He had fought in the Battle of Krail, survived the siege of Vularis, and watched friends die in seconds. Now, floating above a ruined world, he stared at the ashes of what used to be a proud colony. Another species wiped out. Another warning. He turned to his second-in-command. Still no word from the humans. The officer shook his head. No, Captain. As always, silence. Duran narrowed his eyes. Why do they keep out of the war? Billions are dying, and Earth just watches. Many had asked the same question. In the Great Galactic Council, some believed humans were cowards. Others said they were too primitive to help. A few, the quiet ones, believed something else, something darker. One of those quiet voices was Admiral Verl, an old leader who had fought for centuries. In a hidden meeting on a damaged moon station, he whispered to a few trusted allies. Humanity was not kept out by chance. They were told to stay out, for our safety. His words were laughed at. But he didn't laugh. He only stared into the void. Back on Earth, things were peaceful. No battles in the sky. No broken cities. Life moved slowly. People grew food, built machines, explored science. They saw the war from afar, through stolen transmissions and blurry footage. Most didn't care. Some felt guilt. And a few, hidden deep in secret bunkers, watched everything with cold eyes. One of them was General Cole. He sat in a dark room, filled with screens, maps, and blinking lights. Around him stood a dozen officers, each trained for war. Real war, the kind the galaxy wasn't ready for. Any change? He asked. No, sir, replied a young woman. They're still ignoring Earth, just like we planned. General Cole nodded slowly. Good. Let them fight. Let them bleed. At the edge of the galaxy, a dying race sent a final message, a whisper through broken channels. It said only this: do not awaken the Terrans. It was ignored. Back in space, Duran's ship drifted near a battle site. He looked out at the broken pieces of ships, twisted metal, and frozen bodies. Among them, he saw something strange. A small pod, still active, still blinking. Bring it aboard, he ordered. The pod opened slowly. Inside was a human child, unconscious, breathing slowly. Duran froze. What is this? His officer whispered. The child wore a tag. Project Ember. Return only if cleared by level Omega. They didn't understand what it meant. They thought it was a mistake. A lost human, maybe part of a mission. They didn't know it was bait. As the child woke up, the ship's systems began to fail. Lights flickered. Doors locked. Strange signals flooded the control panels. The ship AI screamed a warning in dead languages. The child opened his eyes and smiled. Far away on Earth, General Cole looked at a blinking red light on his screen. It's begun, he said quietly. The officers stood straighter. Some looked nervous, others excited. Do we move now? One asked. Cole shook his head. Not yet. Let them see what happens when they poke the monster. In the Galactic Council, panic spread. The Vicary ship sent one final transmission before vanishing. We opened something we shouldn't have. The human, it's not a child. It's a weapon. Council members argued. Some wanted to attack Earth. Others wanted to beg for help. One elder spoke calmly. We kept them out for a reason, he said. Because they are not like us. They were made for something else. Someone asked, then what are they? He replied, they are the last weapon of a forgotten war. A weapon even their ancestors feared. And still, Earth was silent. But beneath the surface, in bunkers and labs, in black sites, and hidden bases the humans prepared. They had watched the galaxy for years, measured its weapons, studied its tactics, recorded its mistakes. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. They waited. Until now. On a lonely planet, Duran's ship crashed in flames. No survivors, only ashes, and one blurry image from the last camera feed. A child, walking through fire, untouched. Back on Earth, General Cole stood before a screen showing hundreds of alien ships moving toward Earth. "They're coming," someone whispered. Cole didn't blink. "Then it's time," he said. He pressed a button. Across Earth, lights came on, doors opened, weapons unlocked. And for the first time in 1,000 years, humanity stood up, not as victims, but as the thing the galaxy had feared all along. Dark clouds rolled over Earth's hidden bases as old machines woke up, deep under mountains and oceans, long-forgotten bunkers unlocked. Inside, rows of soldiers in black armor stood waiting. No fear in their eyes, only silence. General Cole walked past them, his face cold, his steps slow. "Activate Phase 1, he said. The war above Earth had begun. Alien fleets moved closer, unaware of what waited for them. High in orbit, Admiral Tarek of the Grolic fleet prepared to strike. He had no love for humans. Like many in the galaxy, he believed Earth was weak, protected, lucky. He was wrong. "Are the weapons ready?" Tarek asked. His officer nodded. "Yes, Admiral. We begin bombardment in 2 minutes." They aimed powerful plasma cannons at Earth's surface, targeting cities, power plants, communication towers. But before they could fire, something hit them. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't even visible. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed red. "Impact," Tarek shouted. "No weapon detected, Admiral. But our shields are gone." Gone. A few seconds later, their engines failed. Then their weapons. One by one, their systems died. And then the crew started screaming. One of the screens showed something boarding the ship. Fast, silent, and human-shaped. "Security, respond," Tarek shouted. No reply. He pulled his blaster and rushed to the corridor. What he saw made his blood freeze. A man in black armor stood in the hallway, eyes glowing faint blue. No sound, no words, just a slow step forward. Tarek fired. The bullets bounced off like paper. The armored human raised his arm, and the entire corridor melted in blue fire. Back on Earth, General Cole watched the live feed. One of the officers smiled. "It worked," she said. Cole nodded. They wanted a fight. Now they have one. In the Galactic Council, panic turned to fear. The Vicari, Grolic, and Serathi fleets, all three had attacked Earth, and all three were gone within hours. One council member shouted, "We must send more ships. Destroy them now before they awaken more." Another yelled, "No, we beg for peace before it's too late." An older alien leader stood up slowly. "They warned us long ago. The humans were not made for peace. They were made for the final war." The council fell silent. Long ago, before most races had space travel, there had been a war so great it wiped out galaxies. No one remembered the enemy, only the ones who survived. And only one species was designed to end it: humans. Now that weapon had awakened again. On the moon, an old human installation blinked to life. Its message shot through hidden channels across the stars. Protocol Wraith active. Earth defense phase. Ascension. All Terran units, engage. Ships buried under oceans blasted into space. Black triangles with no visible engines. Silent. Fast. Deadly. Inside them were soldiers who didn't speak. They didn't need to. They had been trained for one job: end threats. Alien fleets tried to respond. They sent waves of fighters, thousands of ships. But nothing worked. One Grolic pilot screamed into his comms, "They don't die. They don't stop. We shoot, and they keep coming. Then silence. Back on Earth, not a single city was damaged. General Cole stood before a glowing map of the galaxy. Red zones marked enemy areas. They slowly turned black, one by one, as human squads cleared them. Time for Phase 2, an officer asked. Cole shook his head. Not yet. Let them understand what they've done. On a nearby alien world, survivors crawled from wreckage. One child looked up and saw a human ship pass silently overhead. No sound, no lights. But he felt something in his bones. Cold, heavy. He whispered, "They were never peaceful. We were just lucky." The human ship didn't fire. It didn't land. It just watched and left. Because this time, the humans didn't come to conquer. They came to end. In the shadows of war, a message spread. It passed from ship to ship, from world to world. No one knew who wrote it, but every race knew what it meant. Earth was left alone, not because they were weak, but because they were locked away. Now the lock is broken. In a quiet council chamber, an old alien scholar whispered to herself, "We didn't keep them out. They kept themselves in." And no one asked why. Because now, they knew. The galaxy had gone quiet. Planets that once shouted for war now whispered for peace. Fleets that had roared through space now floated in pieces. Everyone watched Earth, but no one dared move. In a dark room on a hidden station, a group of leaders from different alien races met in secret. Fear covered their faces. "We have to talk to them," said a reptilian ambassador, his voice shaking. "This cannot go on." "They don't answer messages," said another. "They don't speak. They just appear and destroy," the third one added. But one elder, eyes dim with age, shook his head. "They're not destroying," he whispered. "They're cleaning, like a machine that was told to wait, and now has orders again." Back on Earth, underground beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Cole entered a long chamber. The walls were cold steel. The air was heavy. At the end of the room stood a tall glass tube filled with pale blue liquid. Inside floated a man, eyes closed, unmoving. The label read, "Project Revenant. Do not wake unless world threat confirmed." Cole placed his hand on the scanner. "You're waking him?" one of the officers asked. Cole nodded. "We've used shadows. Now the galaxy needs to see what light looks like." The machine hissed. The liquid drained, and the man inside opened his eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The room temperature dropped by 5 degrees as he stepped out. He was older than he looked, stronger than anyone knew, a perfect weapon in human skin. The galaxy had many names for humans, but long ago, when the ancient war raged, they had only one name for this kind: revenants. Elsewhere, aboard a battered scout ship drifting in deep space, a young alien pilot recorded a message. "This is Commander Ryle of the Serathi Outrider. We have seen what humans can do. They strike without sound. Their weapons do not fail. Their soldiers do not sleep." He paused, breathing hard. "We found an old archive, hidden in the ruins of a dead system. It spoke of Earth, not as a planet, but as a cage. A place to keep something dangerous, locked away." He swallowed hard. They called it a mercy prison, not for Earth, for the galaxy. His message ended. No one ever heard from him again. Meanwhile, the Revenant stepped into a transport ship. 100 black-armored humans stood waiting inside, perfectly still. When he entered, they all turned and saluted. One word echoed through the ship's comms: "Awakened." Far above Earth, a new signal was broadcast. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was simple. A list of systems Earth would visit next. The galaxy held its breath. On the edge of known space, Admiral Vera of the Drelan Empire received the signal. Her face turned pale. "They're coming here," she whispered. Her crew looked at her, confused. "Should we prepare weapons?" She shook her head slowly. "It won't help. All we can do is run." "But where, Admiral?" She had no answer. Back on Earth, General Cole met with a council of human strategists. They weren't politicians. They weren't generals in the normal sense. These were war planners, trained not in how to win, but how to end conflicts completely. One of them pointed at a glowing map. "They still don't understand. The aliens think this is revenge." "It's not," another asked. Cole shook his head. "No, it's protocol. Pure protocol. They broke containment. Now the protocol finishes what they started." Outside the meeting room, another chamber lit up. Inside stood devices that had not been used in centuries. Slim metal rods with glowing tips. Silent, clean, and far too dangerous. They weren't nuclear. They weren't even chemical. They were neural breakers, weapons that didn't destroy cities. They erased entire memories from species. Tools used only when enemies became threats to all life. And now, they were active again. Aboard the Revenant's ship, a target was selected. The Dreelan homeworld. Once proud, now next. They had been the loudest voices pushing for war with Earth. Now they would learn why Earth never spoke back. The Revenant stood near the ship window, watching the stars move. His eyes didn't blink. His voice came only once. "They thought we were the forgotten ones." Behind him, a soldier replied, "They forgot the wrong species." Back in the Galactic Council, the final vote was held. One voice, a robotic ambassador of a machine race, said coldly, "We either surrender or we vanish." A silence followed. Then a vote. And for the first time in galactic history, the entire council agreed on something. Send a message to Earth, beg them to stop. But Earth had already launched. The message arrived too late, and the Revenant was already in orbit. The skies above the Dreelan homeworld turned dark, not from clouds, but from the silent human fleet that now hovered above. There were no warnings, no flashing lights, just shadows, ships with no names, engines that made no sound. Inside the Dreelan capital, alarms blared. Soldiers ran through the streets. Families screamed and hid underground. But it was already too late. In orbit, the Revenant stood on the command deck of his ship, watching. "Scan complete," one of the human officers said. "Civilian bunkers marked. Military centers locked." "Orders?" asked another. The Revenant didn't blink. "Begin with the sky." Above the planet, strange human weapons unfolded, long rods with soft blue light on the tips. They moved slowly, calmly, almost gently. Then, they fired. No fireballs, no explosions, just silence. And across the Dreelan military bases, everything stopped. Tanks froze. Weapons died. Soldiers dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Their minds were being wiped. Not killed. Just emptied. General Tava, leader of the Dreelan army, screamed into the comms. "What is this? What kind of weapon is this?" But no one answered, because his own thoughts were already fading. Back in the human command ship, the Revenant turned to his crew. "Phase 1 complete. Begin memory removal." And like that, an entire planet's knowledge of war vanished. Books turned blank. Screens went black. Weapons forgot how to fire. Codes were lost. Data systems reset. The Dreelan Empire, once proud, once feared, was now harmless. Not dead, just neutralized. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Galactic Council received a short message from Earth. It contained no threats, no demands. Just one sentence. "Do not reawaken what we chose to forget." Inside the council chamber, silence fell. One ambassador, shaking, asked, "Did we do this? Did we cause all of it?" The elder member nodded. "We poked the cage. We called out the monster. and now it doesn't go back until the rules are followed again. Can we stop it? The elder shook his head. No, but maybe we can understand. Back on Earth, General Cole watched the Dreelan broadcast. The Revenant had finished his task. Not a single person on the planet remembered the war. Not the hate, not the orders, not even Earth. They would wake up the next day and build again, peacefully, because they didn't know how to do anything else now. One officer beside Cole asked, "Should we prepare for the next target?" Cole nodded. "They're already watching. Make sure they know what comes next." Deep in the dark corners of the galaxy, small groups of aliens gathered, not to plan attacks, but to hide, to erase records, to burn maps. They thought that if they made themselves invisible, Earth would forget them too. But it was too late. The protocol had started, and it followed logic, not mercy. One such group on the ruined planet Veltrax found an old human satellite half buried in ash. They tried to destroy it. It blinked once, then exploded in a silent burst of white light. When the smoke cleared, everything on the surface had been cleaned. No weapons, no tech, no memories, just empty soil. One survivor looked up at the sky and whispered, "They don't just fight war, they remove it." On board the Revenant's ship, a child sat quietly in a glass room, the same child found in Part 1, the project. She watched the stars and smiled. A nurse asked gently, "Do you know where you are?" The child nodded. "I'm with the Fixers." The nurse frowned. "Fixers?" The child looked up. "That's what they are, right? The ones who fix what's broken." And outside the window, another world came into view. Next on the list. The next world was called Mornak Prime. It was a fortress world, covered in metal, protected by 5 defense rings, and ruled by warlords who laughed when they heard about Earth's attacks. They only won because of surprise, one of them said, banging his metal fist on the table. Let them try that trick again. But deep inside, even the warlords were afraid. They had seen the footage, ships falling with no sound, soldiers that didn't die, weapons that didn't miss. Still, pride was stronger than fear. They began to prepare. Giant cannons were raised, space mines deployed, fighters launched in waves. A message was sent to Earth. "We are ready. Come and die." Back on the Black Command ship, the Revenant read the message. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Behind him, Earth's fleet adjusted course. No ceremony, no warnings, just movement, clean and cold. General Cole stood in Earth's war room, staring at the tactical screen. "Mornak Prime thinks it's different," he said. An officer asked, "Do we treat it the same?" Cole nodded. "It's not about the planet. It's about the pattern." In the galaxy, Earth had become a mystery. Billions asked, "Why now? Why wait for so long? Why remove memories instead of destroying?" Only a few began to understand the truth. Earth was not at war. It was cleaning up one. A war that had started long ago. A war that ended with humans locking themselves away to protect the galaxy from something worse. Now the lock was broken. On Mornak Prime, the first wave of human ships arrived. Unlike before, they didn't stay silent. A voice echoed on all frequencies. "This is Revenant 01. You have been identified as a war-sustaining system. You were warned. You did not stop. This is your reset." The Mornak warlords laughed again. "Reset this," one shouted, and fired the planet's main cannon. It hit nothing. The human ships had moved. Not faster than light. Faster than prediction. Within seconds, Earth's ships appeared inside the defense rings, past the shields, inside their strongest zone. No one knew how they did it. But suddenly, Mornak's command tower exploded, without fire, without debris. Just gone. One by one, the planetary systems began to vanish. Not explode, vanish, like being erased from reality. The warlords screamed orders. "Fight! fall back, anything. But it didn't matter. Inside the main control room, one Mornak general clutched his head. They're not fighting us. They're deleting us. Back on Earth, the girl in the glass room smiled again. They're doing it right, she whispered. The nurse frowned. Doing what right? The girl turned her glowing eyes toward her. Fixing the galaxy. On Mornak, the last remaining officer sent a final message. To anyone. To everyone. This is not war. This is judgment, and it does not forgive. The signal cut, and then silence. All that remained of Mornak Prime was an empty metal sphere. No structures, no people, no memories. Later, when alien explorers came to see what happened, they found nothing. Not even dirt, just smooth, perfect silence. In the council, panic had turned to begging. We surrender, one ambassador cried. Another wept. We will forget weapons. We will erase our armies. Please, tell Earth to stop. But Earth never asked for surrender. And the humans never replied. They only followed the list, one by one, system by system. And those who remained asked a new question. What happened in the past that made Earth this way? Back in Earth's underground archives, a door opened for the first time in 1,000 years. Inside were files older than any living species, records of a war that tore the stars apart. A war Earth didn't start, but was chosen to end. At a terrible cost. They had erased their own memories, chained their own armies, buried their best weapons, because they had won a war that no one else remembered. But they still did. And now, the galaxy was forcing them to remember again. Would you like me to write part 6 now? The galaxy had gone silent again. Not because peace had returned, but because fear had taken its place. Every system that had once shouted for war now hid behind cold silence, hoping Earth would skip them, hoping the list would end before their names came up. But the list was not made out of anger. It was made of logic. And logic does not forget. Back on Earth, deep inside the hidden command center, General Cole stood beside a wall of glowing names. Systems, worlds, factions, all crossed out, one by one. Only a few remained. One of the officers stepped forward. Sir, next target, Xerian cluster. They've sent a message. They're willing to destroy their own weapons. They're begging us not to come. Cole stared at the screen. Did they attack Earth before? Yes, the officer said softly. During the First Galactic War, they used bioweapons. Civilians died. Cole gave a single nod. Then we finish it. High above, the Revenant stood aboard his ship. The fleet was ready. They didn't talk. They didn't cheer. These weren't soldiers who fought for glory. They were enforcers of a final mission. The girl, still watching from the glass room, tilted her head. Why don't they stop? She asked the nurse. The nurse hesitated, because the protocol doesn't allow it. But if everyone's scared now, isn't that enough? The nurse lowered her eyes. It's not about fear. It's about memory. They have to erase the war so it never comes back. The girl nodded, as if she already knew. Meanwhile, in the Xerian cluster, panic spread. Ships were burned. Weapons were tossed into stars. Cities held mass memory erasures, trying to delete all history of war from their systems. But Earth had already marked them. The human fleet entered orbit without sound. No warnings, no shots, just presence. A voice echoed through all their channels. This is Revenant 01. War memory detected. Protocol 7 initiated. One Syrian leader screamed into the microphone. Please, we've already erased our weapons. The Revenant's voice replied, flat and calm. But not your minds. And then the process began. Neural pulses were sent down. But this time, something changed. Instead of just deleting war memories, the humans uploaded something in return. Peace protocols. A new way to think. To live. To survive without war. It was a gift, but a forced one. The Syrian people would never be able to fight again, not because they forgot, but because they were now rewired to reject violence entirely. Across the planet, weapons turned into tools. Warships reprogrammed themselves to grow food. Soldiers looked at guns and felt pain, not power. In one day, a war world became a peaceful colony. But at what cost? In the Galactic Council, the remaining members gathered one last time. Only 12 ambassadors were left from the original hundreds. A hologram of Earth's protocol screen appeared in the center of the chamber. They all saw the list, and one final name glowing at the bottom. Galactic Council Prime. Panic hit the room. "We're not soldiers," one ambassador shouted. "We just gave the orders," cried another. "They won't care," whispered the elder machine delegate. "Humans erase the roots, not the branches." One bold voice finally spoke. "Then let us meet them. Let us go to Earth and ask." The others went silent. "Ask?" someone whispered. "Ask what?" "To understand," the voice said. "To finally understand why they do this." The vote passed. A single unarmed ship left from the council and headed to Earth. Inside were 5 delegates, each from a different race. They'd brought no weapons, no translators, just open minds. When they arrived near Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. The Revenant himself met them. He stepped into their ship, quiet as ever. One delegate stood tall. "We do not wish to fight. We want answers." The Revenant stared for a long moment. Then finally, he spoke. "You broke the seal." The insect-like delegate asked, "What seal?" "The seal we placed on ourselves," the Revenant answered. "To forget the war, to stop the cycle, to give peace a chance. We buried our weapons, erased our records, locked away our soldiers, including me." "But why?" asked the elder. "Because we almost destroyed everything, not just ourselves. All of you." The room went quiet. The Revenant continued. "We locked Earth for a reason, not to hide from you, but to protect you from us. And now?" asked the youngest delegate. "Now that reason is active again," he said. "You opened the cage. You dragged us back into the storm. So we're cleaning it, not for revenge, but because we promised we would." "Promised who?" someone asked. The Revenant's eyes looked distant. "Ourselves." Then he turned and walked out. As the council ship left, one thing was clear. Earth wasn't angry. Earth wasn't hungry for war. Earth was just doing its duty. And there was only one name left on the list now. Earth itself. Earth was quiet. No alarms, no celebrations, just stillness. The skies above were full of human ships, floating silently in formation. No lights blinked. No guns moved. They looked more like ghosts than machines. Inside Earth's Central Command, General Cole stood in front of the final screen. The list was almost complete. Only one name remained: Earth. The Revenant, now back on the surface, walked through the old halls of the buried war archive. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered with age. He reached the end of the corridor. An old door marked "Do Not Open." He opened it anyway. Inside, giant machines hummed to life for the first time in 1,000 years. Walls lit up with red symbols. Data streamed across the room. Memories long forgotten came pouring back. Earth's history was darker than any other planet's, and now it was time to face it. General Cole arrived behind him. "Is it time?" he asked. The Revenant didn't answer. He stared at the center of the room, where a large pod stood, sealed, locked, ancient. Cole whispered, "The first weapon." The Revenant nodded. "The beginning of it all. We erased everything but her." The pod opened slowly with a hiss. Inside was not a bomb, not a monster. It was a human woman, eyes closed, skin glowing slightly with faint blue light. She didn't look old. She didn't look dangerous. But she was the reason Earth ended the First War. And now, she was awake. Her eyes opened, calm and cold. Protocol complete, she asked. Almost, the Revenant said. Only one target left. She stepped out of the pod, her bare feet touching the ground with strange energy. The lights around her flickered. Then we finish it, she said. We finish. Ourselves. Outside, Earth's ships turned, not toward other worlds, but toward Earth, every weapon aimed at home. The officers on board paused. Command confirmation required, said one ship. General Cole spoke into the main channel. Earth is the final risk, the last piece of memory. This was always the plan. Some officers hesitated, others cried, but they followed orders. Inside the glass room, the young girl watched the skies. She saw the weapons turning. She saw the end. The nurse beside her whispered, "Do you know what's happening?" The girl nodded. "They're going to erase Earth." Why? Because Earth still remembers war. And if it remembers, it could start again. Tears rolled down the nurse's face, but Earth is their home. The girl looked up, eyes shining. That's why it must be done. No one else is strong enough to erase themselves. In the council, the last delegates watched the live broadcast in shock. They're deleting their own planet, someone gasped. The elder delegate spoke slowly. They never wanted power. They'd wanted silence. And now they're giving it to us. Forever. Back in the war room, General Cole stood with the Revenant and the awakened woman. The countdown had started. "Final memory purge in 60 seconds, said a voice. The woman looked at the Revenant. "You can still stop it." He shook his head. "It's not about stopping. It's about finishing." She smiled faintly. "Good. Then let it end right." Outside, light gathered. Ships powered up their final pulse, one that would wipe all of Earth's data, memory, and history. The planet would remain, but as a blank slate. No war, no tech, no hate, just silence. The girl in the glass room stood up. She pressed her hand to the window. And softly, she said, "Goodbye." Then the light fell. But it didn't destroy. It reset. The skies flashed white for 1 second. All across Earth, screens went black. Machines died. Weapons melted into dust. Memory servers burned into light. The archives collapsed. The war halls vanished. And the Revenant, Cole, and the woman stood together as the ceiling cracked and the stars above became clear again. Then, they faded. They were part of the system, part of the lock. And the key was gone. Centuries later, when travelers from the stars returned to Earth, they found no cities, no machines, only green forests, blue oceans, mountains untouched by war. A planet reborn. Some say they found a small girl playing in the grass, smiling, waiting. Some say the stars above Earth still blink in strange patterns, as if something watches. But no one knows for sure. The only message found was carved into a single stone near the edge of a quiet lake. We chose silence. Remember that. And so the galaxy did. Because now, they understood the price of awakening Earth.